My name is Michelle Carter, and the day my family gave me $258 and told me to leave, I thought that was the end of my life. I was 22 years old. I had graduated from university 7 days earlier. My diploma was still upstairs on my desk, leaning against the books I had carried through 4 years of sleepless nights, part-time jobs, and quiet hope. I thought graduation would finally make them proud of me. I thought maybe, after years of being useful, quiet, responsible, and easy to ignore, I had finally earned my place. Then my mother called me into the dining room. Judith Carter was sitting at the table with an envelope in front of her. My father sat near the window, his hand resting on his knee, his eyes fixed on nothing. My younger sister, Vanessa, stood behind my mother's chair with her arms folded. No one looked surprised. That was the first thing that scared me. Not the envelope. Not the silence. The preparation. It felt like they had already discussed this moment before I walked in. My mother pushed the envelope across the table. "If you have any self-respect at all," she said, "you'll leave and figure out how to survive on your own." She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She didn't even sound angry. She spoke as if she were giving me instructions I should have been grateful to receive. I looked down at the envelope. "What is this?" "Enough to get started," she said. I opened it slowly. Cash. $258. That was it. That was the amount they had decided my life was worth. For a moment, I thought it had to be a test. Maybe if I stayed calm, maybe if I asked the right question, maybe if I looked hurt enough, someone would stop this. But my father did not move. My mother did not soften, and Vanessa only watched. That hurt most. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't confused. She wasn't even uncomfortable. She was waiting. "I just graduated," I said quietly. "I can get a job. I can help. I'm not asking for much. I just need a little time." My mother looked at me with cold patience. "This house," she said, "and everything in it, belongs to Vanessa now. Your grandmother is gone. There is no reason to keep pretending things are the same." My father closed his eyes. He heard how cruel it was, but he said nothing. That silence was the sound of him choosing comfort over me. Vanessa shifted behind my mother's chair. Her face was soft, almost sad, but not surprised. That was when something inside me stopped reaching. Not broke. Stopped. I picked up the envelope. "I understand," I said. And for the first time, I did. Not why they were doing it, but what it meant. I walked upstairs to my room. Everything looked exactly the same. My books were on the shelf. My graduation photo sat on the desk. I was smiling in it, wearing the blue dress my grandmother had chosen for me, looking like a girl who believed she was finally stepping into a life of her own. My grandmother had died 3 weeks before graduation. She was the only person in that house who had ever made me feel chosen. When she looked at me, she did not look through me. She looked as if she was remembering something important. Before she passed, she gave me a small wooden box. "One day," she whispered, pressing it into my hands, "this will make sense." At the time, I thought she meant grief. Now I wasn't sure. I had seen Vanessa watching that box more than once. Years earlier, when we were teenagers, I remembered standing inside Grandma's study, while she showed me old books and told me how to read people who spoke too politely. When I came out, Vanessa was in the hallway. Her eyes were red. She said she had been looking for a sweater. But she was not looking at any sweater. She was looking at the closed study door, as if the door itself had stolen something from her. Later, when Vanessa got older, she began talking about investments with the kind of confidence people have before consequences find them. She loved phrases like private circles, property opportunities, and early access. My mother smiled every time she spoke that way, as if Vanessa's hunger proved she was born for more. When I spoke about finding steady work after graduation, no one smiled like that. I packed clothes, documents, my diploma, and the wooden box. I did not take the graduation photo. I couldn't bear to bring that version of myself with me. When I came downstairs, the television was on in the living room. A normal afternoon. A normal house. A family continuing before I had even left. I stopped at the front door. Some foolish part of me still waited for someone to call my name. "Michelle. Wait. Michelle, we didn't mean it. Michelle, stay." But no one spoke. So I opened the door and stepped outside. The air felt colder than it should have. The driveway looked longer. The street beyond the gate looked unfamiliar, even though I had walked it hundreds of times. I didn't look back, because if I did, I might beg. and I was too tired to beg for a place that had never truly been mine. That night, I rented the cheapest room I could find. The bed sagged in the middle, the walls were thin, the carpet smelled old. I sat on the edge of the mattress with my bag at my feet and the envelope beside me. $258. I counted it 3 times. Not because I thought the amount would change. Because I needed my hands to do something other than shake. I tried to cry. Nothing came. Some pain does not arrive as tears. It arrives as silence. I lay back, stared at the ceiling, and whispered, "I'll be fine." I didn't believe it yet. But I needed to hear someone say it. 3 days later, after applying for 6 jobs and eating convenience store noodles twice, I opened my grandmother's wooden box. Inside, there was no jewelry, no money, no photograph, only one sealed envelope, old, yellowed at the edges. My name was written on the front, in her careful handwriting. Michelle, not Michelle Carter, just Michelle. My fingers touched the seal. For a moment, I almost put it back. Because something deep in me knew this letter would not comfort me. It would change me. But I had already lost the life I thought I had. So I opened it, and the first line made the room go still. "My dear Michelle, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer there to stand between you and the truth." I read the first line again, then again. "My dear Michelle, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer there to stand between you and the truth." My grandmother never wasted words. She was not dramatic. She did not exaggerate. If she wrote the truth, she meant something that had shaped my life long before I knew I had one. I kept reading. "You were told I brought you into this family because your mother needed help, and because I wanted another grandchild close to me. That was not a lie. But it was not the whole truth. You were not abandoned, Michelle. You were hidden. Hidden." The word did not strike me loudly. It sank. "You were born into a family far more powerful than the one that raised you. A family with old obligations, old enemies, and a name that could open doors as easily as it could destroy peace. Your birth came at the wrong time. Not because you were wrong. Because the world around your mother was." I stopped breathing for a second. All my life, I had believed there was something incomplete about me. Something tolerated instead of loved. Now I was reading that my life had not been an accident. It had been protected. Your birth mother was young. Not careless. Not cruel. Young. She was trapped inside decisions made before she understood how much they would cost. People around her had more power than her grief. They separated her from you before she had the strength to fight them. I want you to understand this clearly. She did not give you away because she did not love you. She lost you because everyone around her had more power than her pain. I wanted to hate my birth mother. It would have been easier. She gave me away. She didn't come back. She let another woman raise me. But my grandmother's words refused to give me an easy villain. I agreed to take you because I believed I could give you one thing they could not give you then. A life outside their control. For years, they watched from a distance. They were not allowed to interfere directly. That was my condition. If they wanted me to keep you safe, they had to let you grow without being shaped into an heir before you had the chance to become a person. You may be angry that help did not come sooner. You may remember hard nights and wonder why no one opened a door. But protection is not always rescue. Sometimes rescue becomes another cage. I thought of strange moments in my life that had felt like luck. A scholarship that appeared when I almost had to drop a semester. A landlord who gave me 2 extra weeks after I missed rent during exams. A professor who recommended me for an internship I hadn't even known existed. Small doors opening right before I fell. Maybe they had not been random, but then my grandmother's next words cut deeper. They protected your survival, not your heart. And maybe that was the part no money, no lawyer, no quiet arrangement knew how to reach. Your grandmother kept records of every intervention she allowed, and every one of them had to be small enough that you would never feel purchased. I sat very still. Because that was true. Someone may have kept me in school. Someone may have kept me from falling too far. But no one had protected the child who sat at family dinners counting how many times her mother smiled at Vanessa and not at her. No one had protected the girl who learned not to ask for hugs because silence hurt less than refusal. No one had protected the part of me that still believed love could be earned by needing less. Truth in the wrong hands can become another cage, my grandmother wrote. If I told you too young, you would have gone looking for answers before you understood what questions to ask. Others would have used your longing against you. I needed you to have a mind of your own before the world offered you a crown. A crown. I looked around the cheap room with its cracked lampshade and humming air conditioner. Nothing about my life, belonged beside that word. Then I read the next lines. The name you were born with is Michelle Evelyn Laurent. The Laurent family has no other direct child. And when I am gone, if you choose to step forward, you will not be asking for a place. You will be returning to one. Michelle Evelyn Laurent. Laurent. The name felt unfamiliar, but heavy. Like a door I had walked past my whole life without knowing my name was carved on the other side. At the bottom of the envelope was a second paper. Thick, cream-colored, folded once. A card. Laurent and Devereaux legal office. Under it, a phone number. And one sentence. When you are ready, call, not before. Beneath my grandmother's signature, almost hidden in the curve of her handwriting, there was a short code. 6 characters. A mix of letters and numbers. At first, I did not understand why it was there. Later, I would. I sat for a long time. 3 days earlier, I had been thrown out with $258, and the belief that I had become no one. Now I was holding proof that I had always been someone. But the strangest part was not the money, not the name, not even the word heir. It was the choice. For the first time in my life, no one was telling me what I was allowed to be. The family that raised me had pushed me out. The family that lost me was waiting. And between those 2 doors sat me. Just me. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over the number. Once I called, I could never go back to ignorance. I could never look at Judith Carter again and wonder whether she knew I did not belong. I could never look at Vanessa's careful smile and call it innocence. Then I remembered something from the week after Grandma's funeral. A sealed envelope had arrived at the Carter house. Cream-colored, thick, with a small embossed mark on the back. Judith had taken it from the mail before I could read the sender. She never opened it in front of me. She only stared at it for a long time, then slipped it into the drawer beside her. From that day on, the way she looked at me changed. Not colder, sharper. As if she was no longer looking at a daughter. She was looking at a risk. I pressed call. The line rang once, twice. Then a woman answered. Laurent and Devereaux. How may I help you? I swallowed. My name is Michelle. There was a pause. Not confusion. Caution. May I ask which Michelle? My fingers tightened around the letter. Michelle Carter, I said. Then, quieter. Michelle Evelyn Laurent. The line went still. The woman's voice lowered. Do you have the code written beneath your grandmother's signature? My eyes moved to the bottom of the page. Yes. Please read it to me. I did. Only then did her voice soften. Miss Laurent, she said carefully. We have been waiting for you. Waiting. All my life, I had waited for someone to choose me. Now, somewhere in a world I had never touched, people had been waiting for me to choose myself. The meeting was arranged for the next morning. I barely slept. Not because I was excited. Excitement is light. This was heavier. This was the feeling of standing outside a door and knowing the person who walks through it will not be the same person who arrived. Before we go deeper, if you're still listening, comment still here. Because this is the moment Michelle stops being the girl they pushed out and starts becoming the woman they never saw coming. I wore my cleanest blouse, dark trousers, and shoes I polished with a hotel towel until they looked almost new. The address led me to a glass and stone building across the city. It was tall, quiet, and expensive in a way that did not need to announce itself. Inside, the receptionist looked up before I reached the desk. Miss Laurent? The name still felt like it belonged to someone standing behind me. I nodded. They're expecting you. No suspicion. No checking. No waiting. Not because they were careless. Because the code had already opened the first door. That was the first time I understood that being expected is different from being welcomed. Welcomed can be polite. Expected means a place has already been cleared. She led me into a private conference room. 3 people stood when I entered. All of them, for me. A silver-haired man stepped forward. Michelle, he said. I'm Charles Devereaux. Your grandmother trusted me. That was enough to make me listen. Beside him stood Eliza Vance, calm and kind, without being soft. The third was Adrian Cole, younger, sharp-eyed, quiet. He looked at me as if he knew my story, and still had the decency not to assume he understood my pain. Charles motioned to a chair. Please sit. I did. A folder rested on the table, but he did not push it toward me immediately. I know you must have questions. I have too many. Then we'll begin with the ones that matter. He opened the folder. Your birth name is Michelle Evelyn Laurent. Your birth mother is Evelyn Laurent, daughter of the late Edmond Laurent. The Laurent family controls private holdings across finance, real estate, and foundation work. Your biological father has no claim in the succession structure. He spoke clearly, but not coldly. I appreciated that. Eliza leaned forward. Your mother was placed under severe pressure during her pregnancy. There were family expectations, public agreements, and people who believed your existence would destabilize too much. So they gave me away. I said it flatly. Eliza did not flinch. They allowed your grandmother to take you. But your grandmother was not passive. She negotiated conditions. Charles nodded. She insisted you be raised outside Laurent influence. No direct contact, no grooming, no public recognition, no financial dependence that could be used to control you. And everyone agreed? Adrian spoke for the first time. No. They resisted. Then your grandmother made it clear resistance would cost them more than agreement. For the first time that morning, I almost smiled. That sounded like her. Charles slid one page toward me. She created a structure around you. Not to trap you. To protect your right to choose later. There were dates, names, and provisions. The language was formal, but the meaning was simple. My grandmother had not only loved me, she had prepared for me. Why now? I asked. Because your grandmother is gone, Charles said. She was the final condition delaying contact. The timing hit me. My grandmother died. I became reachable. Then Judith Carter pushed me out. I looked up slowly. Did Judith know? Charles exchanged a glance with Adrian. Not officially. That's not what I asked. Adrian leaned forward. We believe she received a notification after your grandmother's funeral. Not full details, but enough to understand that your status had changed. I thought of the cream-colored envelope. The drawer. Judith's new way of looking at me. And Vanessa? Possibly. Of course. Vanessa knew something. Maybe not the name. Maybe not the full inheritance. But enough to stand behind Judith while I was handed that envelope. Enough to know my removal was not just personal. It was strategic. Your grandmother anticipated this, Charles said. She anticipated they would throw me out? She anticipated that when you became reachable, people close to you might act quickly. Fear makes people reveal themselves. Fear makes people reveal themselves. For 22 years, I thought Vanessa's softness was harmless. Now I wondered how much harm could hide behind softness when everyone protected it. You don't have to meet your mother, Eliza said. The word mother landed strangely. I had two now. One who raised me without choosing me. One who lost me without knowing how to fight for me. You don't have to accept the Laurent name, Charles added. You don't have to accept any position. Your grandmother made sure of that. What happens if I walk away? Then we protect your privacy, Adrian said. And you live as Michelle Carter, if that is what you choose. And if I don't? Charles held my gaze. Then you step into a life that was held for you. Not handed to you. Held. Held. That word was different. I had been kept in one house, held by another world. The difference was choice. I need time, I said. Of course, Charles replied. No pressure. No disappointment. No guilt. Just respect. As I stood to leave, Adrian spoke again. Your grandmother did not hide the truth because she thought you were weak. I turned. She hid it because she knew people would try to use it before you knew how powerful it was. Outside the building, I breathed in the city air. For the first time since I left the Carter house, I did not feel homeless. I felt unfinished. And unfinished meant there was still something to become. That was when I saw the black sedan across the street. The passenger door opened. Judith Carter stepped out. And the look on her face told me everything. She had not come because she missed me. She had come because she knew. Later, Adrian told me someone had used an old Carter family contact to ask whether I had entered the Devereaux building. So no, Judith had not appeared by magic. She had done what she always did. She had watched the door she was afraid I might walk through. Judith crossed the street with controlled steps, but not calm ones. Judith never hurried. She believed hurrying made people look desperate. But that day, she came close. Her eyes moved once to the building behind me. That single glance answered a question I had not yet asked. She knew exactly where I had been. Michelle, she said. The last time she said my name, it was before she turned my life into a suitcase and an envelope of cash. What are you doing here? I asked. I've been trying to reach you. I changed my number. Her eyes flickered. That bothered her. Not because she needed me. Because she disliked closed doors. We should talk privately. No. The word came out before I could soften it. The old Michelle would have rushed to explain. She would have apologized for refusing. She would have made rejection comfortable for the person who hurt her. That girl had left with $258. This one only waited. Judith lowered her voice. You shouldn't involve yourself with those people. Those people? You don't understand their world. And you do? There it was. A crack. Small, but real. Her mouth closed. You knew, I said. She looked away. That was enough. How long? I didn't know everything. That seems to be everyone's favorite answer. Her jaw tightened. You were brought to us under unusual circumstances. Unusual circumstances, I repeated. That's a soft phrase for a hidden life. I raised you. You housed me. Her face hardened. You had food, school, clothes, opportunities. And love? Silence. The city moved around us. Cars passed. People walked by. Somewhere nearby, a door opened and closed. Judith did not answer, because even she knew some lies sound uglier when spoken aloud. I tried, she said. No, I replied. Grandmother tried. You managed. She flinched, then recovered. You're speaking like someone who doesn't understand gratitude. There it was. Gratitude. The chain people use when they want you to thank them for giving less than they promised. I was grateful, I said. That was the problem. I was grateful for scraps, because I thought scraps were all I deserved. For the first time, she looked uncomfortable. Not guilty. Uncomfortable. Guilt asks what it has done. Discomfort asks how long it has to stand there. Judith looked toward the building again. What did they tell you? Enough. That family will not save you. I didn't ask them to. You think they're different? No, I said. I think they gave me a choice. That stopped her. Choice had never been part of the Carter house. In that house, Vanessa needed. Judith decided. My father retreated. I adjusted. Always. Judith took a breath. Your sister is upset. I stared at her. That was so perfectly Judith that, for a second, I almost admired the cruelty of it. I had been thrown out. I had slept in a cheap room with my future folded into a bag. I had discovered my entire life was built over a truth everyone else had touched before me. And Vanessa was upset. Why? I asked. She feels abandoned. I looked at my mother for a long moment. Then I smiled. Not warmly. Not cruelly. Just enough. She stood behind you while you gave me $258. She was overwhelmed. No, I said. She was waiting. Judith's expression shifted. Too fast. Too small for most people to notice. But I noticed. Children who are not fully loved become experts in weather. Vanessa knew, I said. Judith did not deny it. She knew something. Something. Always. The softer word. And did she suggest I leave? No answer. There it was. Truth, arriving as silence. I stepped back. Tell Vanessa I'm not angry. Judith looked surprised. I'm not angry because anger would mean I still expected better from her. That's cruel. No, I said. Cruel was making me believe I had a family until I became inconvenient. For a second, I saw regret in her eyes. Quick. Buried. Too late. Then her control returned. Michelle, you need to be careful. You don't know what people will want from you now. I thought of Charles standing when I entered. Eliza giving me space. Adrian telling me not to let truth become a cage. Then I looked at the woman who called me family only until my value moved beyond her control. You're right, I said. I need to be careful. Starting with you. I turned and walked away. She did not follow. Maybe because we were in public. Maybe because she understood I would not stop. Or maybe because, for the first time, she had no leverage left. That evening, in my hotel room, I opened the folder again. Page by page. Date by date. Then I saw it. A timeline. My grandmother's death. The activation of my recognition. The notification sent to the Carter residence. The first search attempt tied to the Laurent name. And 2 days later, the Carter family meeting, where I was told to leave. I stared at the dates until they blurred. It had not been emotional. It had not been sudden. It had not been a mother deciding her adult daughter needed independence. It was timing. Someone had seen the door opening and pushed me out before I knew I had the key. The next morning, I went back to the Carter house. Not because I missed it. Not because I wanted to beg for answers. I went because sometimes the place that hurt you most becomes the place where you must stand upright one final time. The gate opened almost immediately after I pressed the intercom. Vanessa had been expecting me. She opened the front door before I reached the steps. Soft sweater, loose hair, gentle face, the kind of beauty people trusted before she spoke. Michelle, she said. I wondered when you'd come back. I didn't come back. Her smile thinned. No? I came to talk. She stepped aside. The house smelled the same. Lemon polish, coffee, the faint floral scent Judith liked in every room. For a second, memory tried to trick me. It said, this was home. Truth answered, no, this was where you learned to make yourself small. Vanessa closed the door. Mom said you've been meeting people. You mean the Laurents? Her eyes lifted. There. A flicker, fear, then calculation. So they told you, she said. Not a question. A calmness settled over me. Some part of me had wanted her to deny it. Not because I would believe her, because denial would mean she still cared enough to pretend. But Vanessa was tired of pretending too. How long have you known? She walked into the living room and sat down carefully on the sofa. I didn't know everything. You all say that. I knew Grandma was hiding something. I knew people called when they thought no one was listening. I knew Mom got nervous when your name came up with hers. She looked at me. I put things together. Then what? She smiled faintly. Then I protected my life. There it was. Not apology. Philosophy. Your life? Yes. My life. My home. My parents. My future. I looked at the family portrait above the mantel. Judith. My father. Vanessa. Me. But now I saw the truth in the picture. Vanessa leaning into Judith. My father's hand near Vanessa's shoulder, not mine. Me standing slightly apart. The photo had told the truth for years. I had refused to read it. I never tried to take anything from you, I said. You didn't have to try, Vanessa snapped. That's what you never understood. You walked into rooms and made people rearrange themselves around you. I almost laughed. The invisible daughter. The useful daughter. The daughter who got leftovers and called them love. You were always the center of that house, I said. No, she said. I was the center because I had to fight to stay there. For the first time, I saw her clearly. Not a monster. Not a fragile sister. A frightened woman who had mistaken possession for love. Grandma loved you differently, she said. Mom watched you differently. Dad felt guilty around you. Then I realized there was a reason. She stood. You were never really one of us. The words should have hurt. Years ago, they would have destroyed me. Now they only confirmed what I knew. You're right, I said softly. That unsettled her. You're right, I repeated. I wasn't one of you. But you let me spend my life trying to be. Vanessa's face changed. For a second, the softness slipped. You had a good life. I had a life where everyone knew more about me than I did. You had school, food, Grandma. And when Grandma died, you made sure I had nothing. Her eyes flashed. I didn't make Mom do anything. No. You just helped her believe it was necessary. Silence. There was the truth. Not in confession. In the way Vanessa's lips parted, then closed. You told her I would leave anyway, I said. You told her I had options. You told her keeping me there would complicate things. Maybe you even told her it was kinder. Vanessa looked away. I nodded slowly. That's how you did it. She laughed once, bitterly. You make it sound evil. No, I make it sound accurate. She turned back. You don't know what it was like. Then tell me. Her expression twisted. I spent my whole childhood watching everyone forgive you before you even made mistakes because you were Grandma's special girl. You got the mystery. The quiet talks. The locked box. The way she looked at you like you were precious. Her voice cracked, but not from sadness. From resentment. I was her actual granddaughter. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said the thing she had never understood. Love is an inheritance, Vanessa. Her face went still. You can't win it by removing someone else from the room. She looked away first. That was the only victory I needed. And those property deals? I asked quietly. Her head turned back. What about them? The ones you kept bragging about. Private circles. Early access. The kind of investments you said would prove you were ready for something bigger. Her expression hardened. You don't know anything about my finances. No, I said. But I know you. You don't just want money. You want proof that you deserve the life you fought so hard to keep. Only later did I understand that Vanessa had not been investing to grow wealth. She had been investing to prove she deserved the world she was terrified of losing. And fear, when mixed with money, can make people reckless. For once, Vanessa had no answer. I opened the door. Before I left, she said, they'll use you. I paused. Maybe. But at least this time, I'll know what they want. The door closed behind me. And with it, the last illusion that losing that house had been a tragedy. It had been removal. But not from love. From a lie. I called Charles from the sidewalk. I'm ready to meet her, I said. He didn't ask who. He already knew. The next day, a car arrived for me. Black, quiet, unmarked. The driver opened the door and nodded. Miss Laurent. This time, I did not flinch at the name. The city fell away slowly as we drove. Buildings became trees. Traffic became open road. Open road became iron gates, and a long driveway lined with old oaks. The Laurent estate appeared gradually, not like a palace. Like a place that had been standing long before anyone alive had learned to want anything from it. Stone walls, tall windows, no unnecessary decoration. Beautiful in a way that felt disciplined. A woman stood at the entrance. She was not waiting there by accident. She had placed herself there. For me. The car stopped. I stepped out. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. I had wondered if I would recognize my birth mother by instinct. Some pull of blood, some cinematic certainty. I didn't. She was elegant, pale, still, and a stranger. Then she said my name, Michelle. Something inside me tightened. Not because I knew her, because she sounded like someone who had practiced saying that name for years and still feared she had no right. I stopped a few steps away. Evelyn, I said. She closed her eyes briefly. Not hurt. Accepting. Yes. The silence between us was full of everything we did not know how to say. I don't expect you to call me anything else, she said. That was the first thing she gave me. Not an apology. Not a story. Space. I read grandmother's letter, I said. Her face softened. She was braver than all of us. Why didn't you fight harder? The question came out before I could make it polite. Evelyn absorbed it. No defense. No quick explanation. I ask myself that every day. Her honesty unsettled me more than an excuse would have. I was young, she said. But youth is not innocence. I was afraid, but fear does not erase consequence. I was controlled, but control does not undo the fact that you grew up without me. Her voice remained steady, but her eyes shone. I can tell you what happened. I can tell you who pressured me. I can tell you how they convinced me that letting your grandmother protect you was safest. A pause. But none of that changes what you lost. For the first time, my anger had nowhere easy to go. She was supposed to defend herself. If she defended herself, I could hate her. Instead, she stood there and let the truth remain ugly. Did you watch me? I asked. Yes. Did you see when they hurt me? Her face changed. Yes. Then why didn't you come? Her mouth trembled. Because I made a promise to your grandmother. And because she was right more often than I wanted her to be. Evelyn continued quietly. She said if I came too soon, I would not be coming as your mother. I would be coming as rescue. And rescue can make a child grateful before she is free. I looked away. That sounded exactly like my grandmother. She allowed limited protection, Evelyn said. School. Safety. Emergencies. Quiet support when survival truly required it. But she would not let us buy your loyalty. The scholarship. The rent extension. The sudden internship recommendation. Small doors opening right before I fell. You were there, I said. Near enough, Evelyn replied. Never near enough. For the first time, her composure cracked. I have no right to ask for forgiveness, she said. And I won't. I only want the chance to know you, if you choose to allow it. And if I don't, then you leave, she said. And I protect your right to leave. No hesitation, no manipulation, no tears used as ropes. Just choice. She took half a step toward me, then stopped herself. My daughter, she whispered. The words escaped before she could catch them. Pain crossed her face. No, she said quickly, almost to herself. No, I don't have the right to say that yet. That did something to me. Not because it healed anything, because it made her human. Not perfect, not saintly. Just a woman who wanted too much and knew she had earned too little. I looked past her into the house, the place where my life had begun without me. The place that had waited because my grandmother decided I deserved to arrive standing, not kneeling. I don't know what I want from you, I said. Evelyn nodded. Then we begin there. I almost smiled. No pressure to heal, no demand to belong, just permission not to know. She stepped aside. Would you like to come in? I looked at the open door, then at her, then at the driveway behind me. The Carter house had closed doors when I needed them open. This woman had every reason to pull me inside, and instead waited for me to move. I walked forward. The house was warm inside, not grand in the way I expected. Quiet, lived in, Flowers in the hall, books beside chairs, sunlight crossing old wood floors. Nothing shouted. Everything endured. Charles, Eliza, and Adrian waited in a study. No one overwhelmed me. No one announced what I owned. They began with tea, then history, then truth. The first thing I learned was that the Laurent fortune was not just money. It was responsibility. Companies, employees, foundations, land, families whose lives were tied to decisions made in quiet rooms. The second thing I learned was that my grandmother had built protections into everything. She didn't want you to inherit a machine, Adrian said. She wanted you to understand one before touching it. And if I choose not to touch it, then we maintain it until you decide otherwise. Choice again. Everywhere. It was almost painful. By evening, I understood the first layer of my new life. Not enough to control it, enough to respect it. As the sun lowered, Evelyn walked me to the terrace. I know this is too much, she said. It is. I know I am too late. I looked at her. Yes. She nodded, accepting the wound without asking me to bandage it. Then I will be late honestly, she said. That stayed with me. Maybe not every door that opened was a trap. Maybe some doors were simply late. The Carters came back 3 weeks later. Not with anger. Not with accusation. With flowers. That was how I knew something was wrong. Judith Carter never brought flowers, unless there was a witness, or an advantage. I was in the Laurent study, reviewing foundation reports with Adrian when Charles entered. Your adoptive parents are here, he said. He did not call them my parents. He gave me the choice of what word to use. Where are they? In the front sitting room. Is Vanessa with them? No. Of course not. Vanessa was brave only when the walls belonged to her. I walked down the hall slowly, not to make them wait, because I was no longer in the habit of rushing toward people who had only ever moved slowly toward me. Judith stood when I entered. My father stood half a second later. He looked older. Not dramatically, just enough. As if the silence he had used for years had finally started charging interest. Judith held the flowers like an apology she did not want to say out loud. Michelle, she said. Judith. Her face tightened. The name landed between us, with all the distance she had created. My father looked at the floor. We hoped we could speak privately, she said. This is private enough. She glanced at Adrian near the doorway. He can stay, I said. That bothered her. People who operate in silence dislike witnesses. She placed the flowers on a side table. They're for you. Thank you. I did not touch them. She inhaled carefully. We've had time to think. I waited. No rescue. No helping her reach the point. She had to walk there herself. We handled things badly. Badly. Such a small word for what they had done. You threw me out with $258. Her lips pressed together. We thought independence would be good for you. No. You thought distance would be good for you. My father looked up. For a moment, I saw pain in his face. But pain is not courage. He had spent years feeling enough to suffer quietly, but never enough to stand beside me. Judith continued. We are still your family. There it was. The sentence I had expected. Not, we miss you. Not, we were wrong. Family. The word people bring when they need access to a door they helped close. Are you? I asked. Michelle. Which part made us family? The years you let me believe I had to earn my place? The day you pushed me out? Or the moment you discovered what my name could do for you? My father whispered, That's not fair. I turned to him. What part isn't fair? His mouth opened, closed. Judith stepped in, as always. We came because we need help. Finally, truth, even late, has a cleaner sound than performance. What kind of help? Vanessa made an investment, Judith said carefully. Several, actually. Property, private loans, people she trusted. Adrian shifted near the door. He heard what I heard. Not investment. Desperation, dressed in expensive language. And now? The debt is larger than we can manage. How much? She named the number. It was bad. Not impossible. But bad enough to humble people who had never practiced humility. You came here to ask me to pay it. No, Judith said quickly. Not pay. Help us find a way through. Use your influence. My influence. 3 weeks ago, I had been a burden. Now I had influence. What does Vanessa say? Judith's face changed. She's embarrassed. I'm sure. She's also scared. I believed that. Fear had always lived under Vanessa's softness. But fear does not become innocence just because it cries. She wanted to come, Judith said. No, she didn't. Silence. Judith looked away first. Good. We were learning honesty in small doses. My father finally spoke. I should have stopped it. Everyone turned to him. His voice was rough, not rehearsed. Real. I should have stopped your mother that day. Judith stiffened. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, he did not look away. I told myself you were strong enough. I told myself you would land on your feet. I told myself it wasn't my decision. His eyes reddened. But the truth is, I was a coward. The room went quiet. Not because the apology healed anything. Because truth had entered and taken a chair. I looked at him. I had waited years for him to say something. Anything. And now that he had, I felt less than I expected. Not because it didn't matter. Because the girl who needed it most was no longer in the room. Thank you for saying it, I said. His face crumpled slightly. That was all I could give him. Judith looked between us, unsettled by honesty she could not control. So will you help us? There it was. The center. The reason for the flowers. The reason for family. The reason my father's apology had arrived beside a financial request. I walked to the window. Outside, the estate grounds stretched under soft afternoon light. A world I had not earned through suffering, but a world I had been prepared to enter by it. I thought of my grandmother. Protection is not always rescue. Sometimes rescue becomes another cage. If I gave them everything they wanted, I would not be helping. I would be returning to my old role. The useful daughter, the understanding daughter, the one who absorbed consequences so others could keep pretending choices had no cost. I turned back. I will review the situation. Judith's eyes lit with relief. But I won't rescue Vanessa from accountability. The relief faded. What does that mean? It means if there are honest debts, I'll help create a fair path forward. I'll make sure innocent people connected to this are not destroyed. A pause. But I will not erase what she did. And I will not let her use my name to rebuild the same illusion. Judith stared at me. You'd let your sister suffer? No, I said. I'd let her learn the truth of her choices. Her face hardened. She is still your sister. She became my sister only when she needed something. No one spoke. Then I added softly, that isn't family. That's timing. It took 6 months to untangle the damage Vanessa had wrapped around the family. Not because I wanted to punish them. Because clean repair takes longer than emotional rescue. The Carter house was not lost. That surprised Judith. I think some part of her expected me to let it fall so she could call me cruel and make herself the victim of the daughter she had abandoned. But I did not need revenge. Revenge would have kept me tied to them. I chose something worse for people who live by control. Boundaries. The debts were separated. The foolish choices were named. The dishonest promises were exposed. Vanessa had to sit through meetings and answer questions without tears being accepted as evidence. At first, she tried the old softness. Her voice trembled. Her hands shook. She said she had been misled. Adrian listened politely, then placed the timeline in front of her. You signed 3 confirmations after the risk was explained. Vanessa cried. Nobody moved to comfort her. For a second, I almost did. Not because she deserved it. Because old habits are stubborn. Then I remembered the hallway outside Grandma's study. The closed door. The red eyes. The years she spent mistaking my existence for a theft. So I stayed still. That was the first real consequence she had ever met. By the end, the Carter family kept the house. But not the illusion. Vanessa sold things she once thought proved her status. Judith stepped away from decisions she had used to control everyone. My father, quietly and unexpectedly, began showing up to repair what he had once avoided. I did not attend every meeting, only the necessary ones. I was not there to watch them shrink. I was there to make sure the damage stopped spreading. I did not help because they deserved mercy. I helped because I refused to let their chaos become innocent people's punishment. During those months, I also learned the Laurent world. Slowly, seriously, I studied the holdings. I met staff. I asked questions that made older men uncomfortable because they expected gratitude and got analysis instead. Evelyn never pushed. She invited me to breakfast. Sometimes I came, sometimes I didn't. When I did, we talked about simple things first. Books, weather, my grandmother's sharp opinions. The way Evelyn used to hide in the greenhouse as a teenager because it was the only place where no one asked her to become useful. Little by little, she became less like a wound and more like a person. Not mother. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way that word was supposed to mean. But someone real. Someone who had failed me and refused to pretend otherwise. One evening, almost 7 months after I left the Carter house, Judith came to the estate alone. No flowers this time. No father. No Vanessa. Just her. Charles asked if I wanted to receive her. I almost said no. Then I thought better of it. Not because she deserved another conversation, because I deserved to know whether hearing her voice still had the power to pull me backward. It didn't. She stood in the same sitting room where she had once asked for help. She looked smaller now, though nothing physical had changed. Power leaves people before beauty does. Michelle, she said. Judith. This time, she did not flinch. I came to thank you. I nodded. You're welcome. The politeness sat strangely between us. She looked toward the window. Vanessa is angry with you. I know. She thinks you humiliated her. No, I said. I stopped protecting her from herself. She confused the two. Judith's mouth tightened, but she did not argue. She may never forgive you. That's her choice. Judith looked at me then. Really looked. You've changed. No, I said. I stopped translating myself into someone easier for you to accept. That landed. She lowered her eyes. I did know, she said quietly. The room stilled. I did not move. I didn't know the full Laurent structure. I didn't know what would activate when your grandmother died. A pause, but I knew enough. The same phrase. This time, spoken without defense. I knew you weren't just a child your grandmother brought home. I knew there were people behind you. I knew someday they might come. Her voice grew thinner, and I was afraid. Of losing Vanessa's place? Yes, at least she said it. And mine? She added. That was more honest. I raised you, she said. But I always felt there was a door in you I didn't have the key to. Your grandmother did. Maybe your real family did. But not me. I said nothing. I resented you for that. The confession was quiet, ugly, human. I told myself I was protecting my daughter, she continued. But I was also protecting the version of my life where I still had control. She looked at me. I am sorry. Not polished. Not strategic. Not followed by a request. Just 3 words placed in the room with nowhere to hide. For years, I imagined that hearing those words would release something in me. Instead, I realized release had already happened. It happened when I walked out. It happened when I opened the letter. It happened when I stopped asking people who hurt me to explain why I was worth loving. I believe you, I said. Her eyes filled. But I'm not coming back. She nodded immediately. I know. I'm not going to be your bridge to the Laurent name. I know. I'm not going to pretend what happened made us closer. Her lips trembled. I know. I studied her face. For the first time, I did not see only the woman who handed me $258. I saw a frightened mother, a controlling woman, a failed guardian. A person living inside the consequences of her choices. Understanding did not make her innocent. It made me free. I hope you build something honest with Vanessa, I said. Judith let out a small, broken breath. I don't know if we know how. Then learn. At the door, she stopped. You were never hard to love, Michelle. The words came late. Years late. A childhood late. Still, they came. I looked at her. I know that now. Her face changed. Because that was the difference. I did not need her to convince me anymore. After she left, I walked through the estate alone, past the study, past the portraits of people whose blood I carried but whose lives I had never known, past the terrace where Evelyn sometimes waited, not calling me, just being near enough if I chose to join her. I went to my room and opened my grandmother's wooden box. The letter was still inside. I had read it so many times the folds had softened. At the bottom, there was one line I had not understood the first time. If they push you out, do not mistake the pain for exile. Sometimes, child, that is how life returns you to yourself. I sat with that sentence for a long time. Then I placed the letter back. Not because I was done with her. Because I had finally understood. The day my family gave me $258 and told me to leave, they thought they were taking my place away. They were wrong. They were removing me from a life that had been too small for the truth of who I was. I did not lose my family that day. I lost the need to be chosen by people who only valued me when I became useful. And what I gained was not just a name. Not just money. Not just a house with old stone walls and quiet halls. I gained the one thing no one had ever given me before. The right to decide what belonging meant. So I chose carefully. I chose not to hate Vanessa, because hatred would have made her too important. I chose not to punish Judith, because punishment would have kept me living in her shadow. I chose not to rush Evelyn, Because some relationships need truth before they can have tenderness. And most of all, I chose not to shrink. Not ever again. Because $258 was never the price of my worth. It was the cost of their last mistake. If you've ever had to walk away from a place that was supposed to love you, comment me. And remember this. Sometimes the door that closes behind you is not rejection. Sometimes it is the sound of your real life finally beginning.